So I wanted to share with you someone talked to me, asked for some advice a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I didn't have clear advice that I could give. And I have, thanks. Yeah, that's what. And I wanted to give them something. They were in anguish of their situation, but if you're really not clear on the advice, don't make up stuff. You could just say, I don't know what to tell you. What I generally say is ask the question, and the answer will come. That's that might be the best advice for everything, but then I'd be out of a job, huh? But asking the question seasons the mind or establishes the mind in a certain way that it will be looking for the answer. It will be looking for the answer. And so I also asked the question. And the answer came last night. So that person is here today. Now I have something that I can actually share. And they may be able to use it and they may not be able to use it. But I think they can if they recognize that this is a response to their question. I had a dream last night. And in this dream, I was doing something that I should not do, some way of being that I have abandoned. I recognized for the first time it wasn't like an observer witnessing the dream. You know how we read stuff and we pick up words and we then start using them and we start talking about being the witness of and all of that, it sounds really good, So, but what I realized is that I was not witnessing that I was dreaming. I was dreaming, and that state is no different than when I am awake in this state. That was a real thing going on in a way, and not Pannavati observing that she was having a dream. There was no two tiers to it. It was, this dream is my life at this moment. I'm living this dream. And that was a different experience for me because I read things about the dream state. I read things, and we start just taking it up. Yeah, that makes sense, And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm awake and I'm living my life, but that was a dream state and that's not a real state. And I can witness me dreaming, But last night, I did not, Pannavati, did not witness her dreaming a dream and recognizing it as a dream. There was only that state, that existence in the dream state. And in that state, I was carrying out activities that no longer fit my character. And I could and did experience all of the feeling around that, you know. And the question that had been posed to me was, I'm having these dreams that are out of character for me, and I don't know what to do about them. I don't know how to stop having them, you know. And I'm not happy with myself, you know, when I wake up after having these dreams. And so last night I have this dream, and this is a recognition that there's not really an observer observing the dream, but I'm in a state that has its own world, and I'm in it. And so then I wake up and I say, oh, that dream I had, and I don't like the way I feel from that dream. And so then the answer came, then go back to that world and take what you know about how you walk in your waking world. So I said, okay, I'll try that. And I drift right back off. And now I pick up in that dream world. And that world was as real as my waking world, once again. But this time, I remembered the advice that I was given when I woke. And in that dream world, I stood for the Dharma that I know, that one who was dreaming, that one who was in that world. I'll say that, I won't say who was dreaming, and who was in that world. I reminded myself in that world of what I stand for and what is meaningful to me, and what's important to me, and how I desire to be. And right there in that dream, that dream consciousness, that person in that dream took the stand in the dream and canceled out that behavior. And then I woke again, and now it was morning. And I had this huge smile on my face and just this great contentment because I conquered unwholesomeness state. You know, I and how it was no different than a waking state. And I was able to see that the dream state and the waking state are really no different. And so it has shifted waking state for me now. When I say life is but a dream today, I mean it differently than if I had said it yesterday. So when we start to get into these kinds of spaces, it gets difficult. Um, it gets difficult to explain things because we already have a fixed notion of what some things are. Like, this is the real world, and that's a dream world. But today, for me, my understanding of it is different. But the power that I bring back from that is the capacity of our vow and the capacity of a precept to change our state. That's what I'm talking about today. It's not for conversation, for mental stimulation, for like just to like quote know something, but it is for utilization. And how much we can shift our perceptions instead of being victims of circumstance. That there is this untapped capacity in us if we dare to use it. So I'm going to this on all kinds of things, after today, because I now have found the superpower, for me. And I'm gonna be using it on everything that I feel like I have difficulty with to see how it shifts and changes, um, how I my capacity at the moment. See, this starts to get interesting. We don't know. We don't know much, so we don't do much. Uh, we begin to rack up knowledge, then there comes um, a space of time where now we need to start using it, applying it to our life situations, because that's the only way that the situations will shift, is if we use the knowledge. It's knowledge. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge acted on is power. And we have to figure out how to use that knowledge, how to act on it. Suppose when it occurred to me that if I took that dream state as I take this waking state, like that's a real thing, then I can apply my will to it in that dream and shift it. And when I say it shifted, I mean everything shifted. The way I felt about it, the feelings shifted as well. And I might not be doing a good job today, sharing about it. I'm just simply saying that the dream state for me now is no longer any different than the waking state. And soon, the waking state for me will be no more than the dream state. That's a little bigger nut to crack, right? But it's pointing me in how to liberate myself. The words are not going to liberate us. The words on the paper. Paul parroting them to each other, that's not going to liberate us. But when we know how to take them and use them, then that is the ground for liberation. And the one who does that is not the one who does that, us, ourselves, liberate ourselves. So Joe and I were talking on the way over today, sort of like about this very, very same thing. But the conversation was a little bit different when we talked about relying on the Dharma. We can only rely on the Dharma that's in us. If it's only a little bit in you, then there's all reliance. If there is a great amount of Dharma in you, then there's great reliance. There's a capacity for great reliance. So how much Dharma is in you is the question, not how much Dharma do I know. A lot of times I'm talking about things that we should examine so that we can, like correct ourselves. And it's good to have those conversations all the time. Number one, your feelings stop being hurt so easily. Number two, you start to see the benefit of correcting a view. You start to really, really appreciate it. I mean, you're putting all this effort in, and you one scintilla off a mile down the road, you're going to be off into left field. But you start to really appreciate being able to make the little tweaks and not taking it personal. I see that. Yeah, I see that. Look at that. And that's how you get with yourself. And then when you stop feeling bad about yourself like that, then you stop worrying about what other people think about you too. It's like they just don't know. And when you stop thinking about that, you actually sort of like stop even hearing it. It's like it just goes. It's like when you're focusing on a TV screen, and something happens right in front. Sometimes I can be so engrossed in something that the phone rings. I don't even really register that the phone is ringing because I'm engrossed. I'm engrossed in something that I'm doing. Or I've turned off that. So like getting in the car and the seatbelt buzzes or does something, dings, like I don't even hear that ding, and other people are like seatbelt, because I don't register that I care about it, and I don't hear it. Just being out of tune with that. And you will get to be out of tune with condemnation. You'll get to be out of tune with frustration. You'll get to be out of tune. Or you won't, it recedes and moves to the background. And you won't even hear it. You won't hear your own debilitating assessments of yourself. You won't hear other people's complaints about other people. I mean, you won't even pick it up. You'll start picking it up less and less and less, just different frequency. And it'll stop bleeding. It'll stop bleeding through. Now you watch this week how much less attention you will pay to things that are said or things that are done. were more irritating to you in the past, or that you homed in and focused and let like an arrow going into your heart. You see, this is the beginning stages, the capacity to to cut off, to block those pains that penetrate into our fleshiness and cause us anxiety and cause us stress and cause us trepidation. This Dharma gives us a superpower, but only if we take it up. I remember laughing at my grandson. He it was during the time of Ultraman was really big, and he would get. I don't think we called it bullying back then. You know, I mean, it's just what happened to you. You know, we didn't call it bullying, but I guess he was being bullied because he started having a companion with him all the time, Ultraman. And when he felt like powerless, like he couldn't do something, he called for Ultraman, you know. And Ultraman would come to his rescue, you know. And I would laugh at him. Now I'm trying to call for Ultraman, you know. So he knew something then that I didn't know, you know. But the Dharma is Ultraman for me. So I want you to think about it when you find yourself in a situation this week. If you will call forth your superpowers, I'm going to take care of a lot of things in the dream state. It was easier. It really was. But the thing that I recognized is it was easier because that experience represented what to me? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the falseness of life.
Yep. So in my dream, I could kind of like handle it because like this is just a dream, right? This ain't real world. This is not real life. But I take this as like this is life. What if I took it like a dream? Then I could handle it in a different way. And waking up, now that I awakened from that dream did not seem any different than real life. The power that I exerted, the capacity to handle myself, to bring into place what I wanted for me in that dream, when I woke, I still had it. It was there. And it was real. Because my whole feeling about the dream completely shifted. The whole feeling about myself completely shifted. So this thought world we have that we think is just thoughts is the forerunner of this reality that we're living in. It is the creator of this reality. And if we know how to change and shift our thoughts, we know how to change and shift this reality. And it takes a lot of work, but the work is really believing and knowing and understanding and operating in the shift capacity. That's the whole thing. And so this gives me something to work on this week. You know, I don't need too many. Let me just clarify. I don't need too many things, you know. But what comes up, what happens to come up, I'm going to work with it in this way. Oh no, mine. Oh, look what's happening. Oh no, I don't want to do it. I'm going to work on finding what is the vow and what is the precept that I need to activate and remember at this moment that shifts that the nature of appearances concerning this situation. That's where I'm going to start this week. I'm so excited, honestly. I mean, I really, really am, because I don't know how this is going to turn out, you know. But it's not going to be a boring week. That I know, because I got an answer to a question. So I'm thankful for the person who asked me that question, because it gave me something to do that's giving me a breakthrough. Do you understand? And that's a boon for me. I wanted the answer because I want to be able to answer every question, you know. But that's the selfing part that wants to do that, you know. To be the go-to person, the one who's got the answer. But could I even, if I had had the answer, could I have even used it in my own life? So this is where the Dharma starts to get really real for us, and it intertwines with our existence. And it begins with things. So in preparation for this week, I had pulled up the King of Prayers. I said something we can do is incline our mind in a certain way so that it follows that thread in pushing itself on a platform for seeing all the different things that will happen this week, that will show themselves this week, and what will, how will I see something? You know, something is how I see it. So for one person, and we can all be going through the same thing, and one can see it on a certain level, and it's so ugly. One can see it on another level, and it's not much to worry about. It's something to take care of. One can see it, the same thing, on another level, and that's a really big thing, a big issue. And another can see it and from another level, and it's like absolutely devastating. The same thing, the same occurrence, but four people seeing it in four different ways. It's presenting in four different ways. And so he tells us that we have to continually be seasoning our mind, because that's going to be the level or the platform upon which we have our interactions throughout the week with people or with circumstances. So I pulled out the King of Prayers, and I think we did this one time. And actually, I think the King of Prayers was dedicated to Manjusri Shri. And sister, you can correct me if I'm wrong about that. But it starts, I bow down to the youthful Arya Manjushri. And it talks about how he bows down to Manjushri is manifestation of wisdom, and how he bows down to wisdom. And in one of the verses, he says, with infinite oceans of praise for you and oceans of sound from the aspects of my own voice, I sing the breathtaking excellence of the Buddhas, and I celebrate all of you who have gone to bliss. And I was wondering throughout the day how many times my mind goes to the holy beings and rejoices in them with a deep sense of respect, you know. And I think of their excellence. And because I may not do that in the course of a day or even over 4 days or 7 days, I have no aspiring platform for my own performance. Because I haven't set anything high view. I'm just muddling through the vicissitudes of life, you know. But what if every once in a while my mind shifted with infinite oceans of praise for you? An ocean sound from the aspects of my voice. I sing the breathtaking excellence of Buddhas, and I celebrate all of you. With that kind of mind, don't you think that when some challenge comes up for you, that you're in some kind of exalted state, not a state of being overcome and undone circumstances, that one's mind lifted up in such a way that they're thinking at this moment that this a condition, that there's nothing that comes the way that I can't handle. It would just be a natural evolution of one whose mind is elevated in a certain way. It's like all day long saying, I can't, there's nothing, there's no hope. But then a situation comes and you completely crumble because your mind is at such a low vibration. No, this is why we do this, and not because Buddhas or Bodhisattvas or holy beings or Dharma protectors, not that any of them need any kind of praise. Their work is their praise. What they do is what they are. So they need nothing from us, you know. But by putting ourselves in of their qualities, it gives something to us. There's one that says, following in the footsteps of all the Buddhas and perfecting the practice of a bodhisattva, may I always act without error or compromise, with ethical conduct that is faultless and pure. Now, if that has a deep position in my mind, when I'm confronted with a situation, even when there's involuntary feelings, unwholesome feelings arising, there's my standard. There's my pow to that which is coming. It's right there. And it arises from within my own mind. The same place that the debilitating negative aspect or view of what is happening arose. It's right there, resident in that same space. I can say, wait a minute, let me go and grab something. And no, it's right there in us, but it's only there in us if we put it in us. We have to put it in us. We have to take some of these and make them our own thoughts, our own words, in our own mind, following in the footsteps of all the Buddhas and perfecting the practice of a bodhisattva. May I always act or compromise. When that feeling is starting to arise, may I always act without error or compromise. That produces a feeling too. Yeah? May I always act without error or compromise. I don't want to make a mistake in it. I see the danger in that. And even though it's drawing me because it has found some flowering seed in me, it's there, it's not uprooted. But I can cut it off right here. I can actually make it go back into its sheath and back deep into the soil. Just by bringing forth another seed that is in there. But that seed is only in there if we put it in us, if we plant it. With ethical conduct, may I be faultless and pure. Faultless and pure. And then when that thought starts to arise, that is not pure, I can, may I have conduct that is faultless and pure. One that I liked is, says, may I traverse all my lives in the world, free of karma, afflictions, and interfering forces. Just as the sun and moon move unhindered through the sky. Now I'm envisioning this, you see. I'm creating something with my mind, something that I'll be able to bring forward and use at a time something else is arising in that same mind. May I traverse all my lives in the world, not just this one, all of them. Just as the sun and moon move unhindered through the sky. It creates a kind of symmetry for us. So the same way, whatever circumstance is arising in our life, it's creating a kind of imagery. We're substituting imagery. May I practice constantly, perfecting the activities of awakening. We need to have some of these in our arsenal. Do you have any of these in your arsenal? We gave everybody a copy of the King of Prayers. May I act in harmony with the various dispositions of beings. May I act in harmony with the various dispositions of beings. Someone just came and was talking to me about how to be with their mother because she's evangelical. And her mother, and I'm saying, I talk to her about the Bible. I'm like, know the Bible? She says, well, no, because I didn't, you can't talk to her about it. Talk to her about what you know. You're not going to win an argument with her trying to tell her what the Bible doesn't mean. You're not. It's more than a waste of time. It goes against what you're trying to accomplish. Talk to her about you. You could say that what you are practicing is making you a better person. You could say that what you're practicing is helping you to listen and understand other people better. It's helping. You can tell her how what you're practicing how it's helping you, rather than you try to tell her what's erroneous in her, in her religion. I said, because obviously you don't know it. I can tell you, speaking from as a Christian, it's a lot of good stuff in there. Maybe the church doesn't know how to walk it out, but I know fault. No, in the basic tenets and the principles. It's just you got to find a method to walk it out. This is one such method. Filling one's heart with delightful. When something starts to come up in your life, you can use as an antidote for the mind, so that the mind can stay clear, the mind can stay fresh, the mind can stay happy. There's one that says, may I always have the friendship of those whose path is like mine. And may we practice together the same aspirations and activities. And I want to ask you, like, outside of when we come to Dharma, the meeting hall is like, we all come in and we're on one accord, and then we all go out, and all the rest of the week, we're doing our other things, our golfing buddies, our tennis buddies, our, what do you call it? Pickleball, our pickleball buddies, our movie partners, our dinner friends, and but so like I just see y'all 2 hours a week, and this is when like we all tight, yeah. But when we leave, I have all my other worldly friends that I'd rather spend all the rest of the week except for the 2 hours right here. Never a conversation, never a phone call, making a connection about something joyous. That's just a 2 hour activity that we do. Then we go to our real life and our real friends and I'm saying. And the odds of get going to heaven in those same increments. Okay. I'm saying, I'm just saying. I mean, just so that we don't have illusions about where we really are. That's all. So we don't have any illusions about that. How much time we spend in what kinds of conversations with who when we talk about something having a place of supremacy in our life. We know we do when we make room for it. We know we do when we have time for it. We know we do when we want to engage it. May always meet a spiritual mentor and never displease that excellent friend. Sometimes what I won't do for myself, I will do for the sake of my friendship and respect for Buddha. As I consider him my greatest friend. Mind is always on his words to me. I'll say always. But I will say 10 times an hour, my mind is on his words to me. That's my greatest friend, even though I like hardly knew the man, only a few times in his presence. But his pithy sayings, just one little line here, one verse here, 3 words there, and how they affect and impact and shift the whole structure of appearances for me. Surely, he's my greatest friend. So may I always meet a spiritual mentor and never displease that excellent friend who deeply wishes to help me and expertly teaches me the way. See, this is not even a matter of the head. It's one being all in. And it takes nothing away from me. And it gives so much to me, to groom my mind in a way. And when I do, my mind does all the cultivating. I is not necessary for the cultivation. It's grooming my mind, and then that mind cultivates. And it becomes effortless. I just take one line, and it's talking about, may I directly see the Buddhas and the masters encircled by the bodhisattvas, And without pause or discouragement, may I make extensive offerings to them. So in my mind, like, what kinds of offerings am I making? I'm not going out and buying a truckload of flowers and and all of this incense and so forth. Those represent offerings, but the offering is the offering of my attention and my awareness of their presence at all times. I'm encouraging without pause, discouragement, never getting discouraged. I don't measure up to what I would do, I don't do, don't want to do, I do. That could be very discouraging. But what I offer is what I serve, or what I give up is discouragement. I give that away. I surrender that to them. That's the greatest gift I could give them, to not be discouraged. And I make extensive offerings. May I hold within me the Buddha's genuine Dharma. Always looking to make sure I have just the right, leaning, just the right flavor. How could I be more squarely in the center of that, of understanding it, of articulating it, of actually walking it out myself? How, and one's attention goes to these places. And the more it goes to these, the more one goes to places. That's where your mind will start going continually. May I within me the Buddha's genuine Dharma and illuminate everywhere teachings that awaken. Now, the Dharma is not like just some language on a page, but that means that may everywhere that I go, my very presence, maybe the words that I speak or even just the view of what is happening in that place, you know, may I bring that quickening or that enlightening capacity to that space, is what it means, you know. May I illuminate everywhere teachings that awaken. Through what? Through my thoughts, words, and deeds. It's not that I always have to be saying something. I can be thinking something that can completely shift the atmosphere by the power of my thought. Do you feel that way? Do you feel that you can go into a space and that the power of your thought is so it's so as real as the situation or the space that you're in? It is that real. Is it as real as that? Sometimes for me it is, sometimes it isn't. No, but the more I lean into that kind of mind stream, the more um, proficient one can become in shifting the structure of appearances. This is the value of the Dharma, and this is how we can do without doing, how we can help and support ourselves and others without helping and supporting. We have an outward way that there's got to be some outward show for something to be going on. But no, it doesn't. Actually, what's going on the inside is ultimately play out of the world. And he says the only way that we are going to know this is if we first hear it, have some faith that it is true, and then put it to the test to see if it is. It says, with every harmful action I have done, overwhelmed by judgment or confusion, these I openly lay bare. That's in calling forth the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, not trying to, it's a place of one learns how to be totally honest with oneself without debilitating shame. It's where one can be like absolutely free to say, I messed up. And coming there in that heart or that mind, and I'm coming to you, victorious ones, because you have overcome in this area. You've overcome in this area. I can come to you because you know what it is to be an overcomer. So I come freely and say, I messed up. There's one that says, in those times, I am aware of harmful actions that I have done. I lift up my heart and rejoice in your merit, in all of the good that you have done. So it's like acknowledging my shortcomings, but we're not going to go in all of that. So at this time that I'm feeling, I ain't got nothing over here that I can rejoice about, you know. So I will rejoice nevertheless. Rejoice in your. I rejoice right now in the goodness you have done. You see, it's a way of changing this mind and the patterns of the mind. You giving antidotes, utilizing antidotes to unconstructive, non-constructive non-constructive ways of thinking. So you can even take a negative and shift to its constructive side. So that the mind is always moving towards the positive construction, even when it's acknowledging its shortcomings. And we have to get skillful at doing that. Please be with us for the happiness and well-being of all wanderers in samsara. Please stay with us. Please stay with us. When I'm witnessing something that's, I can talk about how that is, and you know, it just don't make no sense. Every day when I come home, Kay gives me the news report. She tells me, you know, everything that has happened on the news. But what I'm hearing today, based on the answer I got last night about the dream and reconstructing with my vow and my precept, today when I go home and I get the news report from her, I'm going to say, nevertheless, holy beings, please stay with us. Yeah, all of this is going, you know, it's like, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. You know, we would start backing up and leaving the building. But I'm imploring the holy beings, never, in spite of all of it, please stay with us. Asking them to stay. And out of their compassion, they will stay because we ask. When they'd rather not be in, this is the vow that they've made. As long as you want me to stay, I'll stay. Even if you mess up again and again and again, if you ask me, I will stay. May as many beings as exist in the 10 directions be always well and happy. May as many beings as exist. We can't omit any names. May as many beings as exist in the 10 directions be always well and happy. Now you're saying, oh no, we don't want them to be happy because happiness for them is blah, 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 you know, which is unhappiness for everybody else. May they be well. We don't want anything to go right in their world because they're just so wicked and so evil. But that's because they're not well, right? So may they become well and happy. And because our own minds get into the right place, we contribute to future events, because that's what we're doing right now with our minds. We are creating the future. We can produce future events that's based on virtue, that's, that's based on strong aspirations for, displays of goodness, that's based on right mind, that's based on balance, based on, so we have to put something in the world. That's what I'm saying. We can't like just be fighting everything or putting up a block against everything. We have to be putting something into the world. We have to be good at doing good. We have to be good at thinking good. We have to be good at calling forth, the merit of virtue and goodness. We have to be putting that into the world. If it ain't there, that's our fault. We have to take some responsibility for what we are not planting in the world. We have our groups, our meeting groups and so forth, to like soothe each other because we're so upset with the conditions going on. And actually, if you can see the selfishness in that. There's one in here, I don't think I know exactly where it is, but it talks about staying with the suffering that we experience. I don't think I have all of the pages because it's a pretty long prayer, this prayer is. I mean, this is a prayer you can divide it up and it can take you all week to get through it because it's so many things, you know. But it talks about being able to be with the suffering, you know. And the thing is that when one is able to be with the suffering, for them it's not suffering. It transforms. See? And so that one is not suffering, although from the outside to others, it would seem like suffering because they wouldn't be able to be with that condition and hold it. By paying homage and acknowledging my faults, requesting and rejoicing that Buddhas stay and teach, I dedicate all this for full awakening. Full awakening. And then may I teach the Dharma in the language of gods, in every language of spirits and nagas, in every language of humans and of demons, and in the voice of every form of being. So we're like really concerned about human beings, you know. And we say, well, like we should be because they're the ones creating all the problems. But if they're the ones creating all the problems, they're creating problems for all other beings, right? So if we can think beyond just human beings, like self is like a subset of human, right? So we are so concerned humans, and there's so many other beings. There's so many other beings in the universe. We not only do we think we're the food chain of sentient beings that we know about, but we just think that that it's only those that are of this kind of form and composition that really, really matter, So we don't feel any, we don't feel anything for for ghosts or for, you know, and even devas or beings. They're suffering. If you think we suffer on our level because, and we suffer because of our attachment to things, you know, we suffer because of the things that we have, our pleasures, you know, when they are curtailed, is what causes our suffering, right? So can you imagine, you know, celestial beings, you know, and at the height of their pleasures and delights, how when something goes wrong or is taken or is lost, how much suffering they go through. I mean, just think about it. If something that I enjoy or that gives me great pleasure is taken away, you see how bad we can be. Suppose we had pleasures on the level of the celestial beings, like compounded 1,000 times more glorious, 1,000 times more beautiful, 1,000 times more sensuous, 1,000 times more, and something gets taken from them. Imagine the excruciating suffering they must feel, because we suffer over little stuff being taken. So how much greater they're suffering? They're still in the realms of samsara. That's why. That's why uh, beings in the God realm can't help you as much as you'd like them to, because they also are in the realms of samsara and attachment. Now, don't take this one the wrong way, but I'm just going to say it because it's here. You know, for some of us, this one is meaningful to us. Remember past lives in all varieties of existence. May I practice the Bodhisattva way. And thus, in each cycle of death, migration, and birth, may I always abandon the householder's life. It's only saying, may I get more and more focused. Like somebody sent me a meme yesterday. I think it was David, and it said it had this baby in this scrunched up, excruciating face like this, and the baby said, "This is my 17th reincarnation as a human, and I haven't been born into a wealthy family." No, it was. Yeah, something like that. But the thing is, you know, we like to think that with every some of us who can buy rebirth linking consciousness, we can only buy it like I'm coming next time when I come here as a human, of course. You know, we don't think we're gonna come as a dog or cat or a tick, or, you know, but there is a for every manifestation of form, there are causes and conditions. If you don't know what causes a consciousness to be born as a tick, you might want to find out to make sure you're not doing those things, and then you don't have to worry about coming back as a tick. But we always think we're going to always come back as a human. You know, that's our thought. You know, like, oh yeah, like I want to come back again and again and again. But there's no guarantee that you're going to come back as a human, because there are conditions for their being up in in that particular form, in the form of a human. And if you don't know what causes one to come back as in human capacity, you might want to know. Otherwise, you just show up, you know, according to the behaviors. Can you imagine how difficult it is for like an animal to be to take on incarnation as a human, when all animal knows is how to move through survival instinct. And different animals at different levels of survival instinct versus awareness. That's not just a human, but they got that one right there that they weren't willing to take care of, so they come back for a short term as to burn up that particular karma, and then gone. I used to grieve so, like couldn't understand like why a baby could die. Had his whole life in front of him. Maybe he just had one little thing it needed to be that was, karmic thing that needed to be handled. Needed to be gets worked out, gone, done. But of course, we look at it at a different way, because if you do get here, you'll stay here for 80 years, good, bad, or ugly. That's how long you have to stay. And if you leave before that, you left before your time. That's the way we think about it on this side. But there are other ways that one can understand, but you have to ponder, shed light on conditionality and what it is, how it presents itself in the world. There are so many things that we could know. And not just to know it, but that sets up suitable conditions for you around your life so that your day has more use than how we're using it. So I'd like to challenge you this week, that as we're moving more into overcoming our own inner obstacles, and starting to enter into a resonance with, a more valid course for living. And being open, not so much cherry picking, whatever things sit well, really trying to figure out what's not sitting well with us. Just training ourselves to illuminate things through contemplation, and to re-examine the most long-standing, principles we hold to be true, or even long-standing traditions. Traditions are not infallible. I read a discourse, this one to you, I think, but it's one for me to know for sure. And in this discourse, he was saying nothing the organization does basically is he in agreement with. Yet what is it for him to do? He said, but I'm here to do a job. He said, I do my job. And he talked about the things that maybe we talk about all the time, the insufficiencies of people, of the translation committee. They're taking too long to get the translations out, or the highest ones in the organization who we call the holy ones. They don't even, what did you get there for? And they don't even teach. And he looked at all of these things and he said, I don't agree with any of it, but I'm not them. I'm me, and I know what my job is, and I do my job. And he didn't take up all that. He said, I don't control anything here. He said, I don't control anything here. I don't own anything here. I don't make people do it. I don't, he said, I don't. So if they ask some guidance, I point them in a, then they do whatever they want. And he said that that's the kind of freedom that one can live in. Can you imagine how free you could live if you didn't feel that you had to control your life and anybody who comes into your orbit? That's what the real suffering is. And it's hard to, it's the walking out of it is sticky like Velcro. The weight of it is indescribable. Having the wisdom to draw that line between saying it would be good to do that and then wanting someone to, in exactly you want to do it. That's where the sticky part is. That's the weighty part. And I'm trying to look at his life as an example of how to lead without the weight of controlling others. Because leading is an exercise in personal freedom. So I'm looking everywhere I feel personally bound, personally obligated, personally in charge, personally responsible. I'm looking at those chords, and that comes from the mind, and the mind. Creating the perception of control, right? It's in the mind. So your own freedom is only going to come from your own mind. Now get ready for a taste of that. It's not going to be what we thought it was. It's something different entirely. Because I've been trying to find freedom in the words, in the clothing, what we wrap ourselves in. And the freedom is not found there. So I think that's where I'd like to stop. And the reason why I want to get to, because I want us to really get to the place that we can examine the 31 planes of existence. Because these are planes of energetic refinement. And if you're not going to make it Buddhahood, then I think what the other planes of refinement are. So you could have some idea of where you can go. More than give you grace in the process at the moment of dying, but it'll also help you to know how you are developing right here, right now. And I'll just say, for example, in the 11th heaven, that's the realm of devas who wield power over the creation of others. They enjoy sense pleasures created by others for them. But in the 10th plane, the devas delighting in creation, they delight in sense objects of their own creation that they make up in their mind. But when you get to, say, Sahampati, who asked the Buddha to stay in the world and teach when he awakened, he said, then nobody here is going to get it. And Sahampati came and he said, there are a few who have have little dust in their eyes. He actually came from the 24th heaven that's called the Atapa world. They are beautiful devas who are untroubled. And that's a Brahma world, and that's where he came from. And he said that there are some in the earth who have lust in their eyes, so they have the opportunity, and to go from this realm to the 26th realm, and there are causes for rebirth there. So if we know the causes for rebirth in the different realms, we can set, a goal. We can set an intermediate goal, or we can certainly know when we to the fruit produces a reappearance on that plane. And this will make a difference in what you give your attention to in your practice. And right now we're on the right, right. First the hell realm, animal realm, the ghost realm, the sewer realm, and then the human realm, and that's where we are right now. And after that is the deva of the four devas of the four great kings, and then the three gods and the Yama gods, contented devas, and then but they have certain qualities and certain accomplishments. So you can accomplish them here, and then you elevate to whatever that level of accomplishment is in a world that has been created by one's what? Mind. That's been created by one's own mind. And that's why knowing your mind and harnessing that becomes so important. So I'd like to close out with an invitation to think of this life as a dream, and an invitation when you dream to enter that dream as a real world. And see if in your dream state you can use your mind to overcome shift to change, you know, an unfortunate circumstance in the dream, or use thoughts of goodness to shift the mind consciousness in that dream, and to see what happens. And then I like to talk about it. So write it down, like write down, but and we're gonna share this next week. We don't talk about things in this kind of way too much, because we can get off and vector off into some crazy spaces. Just depends on how crazy we are, right? But I'd like for the activity of working, just working your dream state as real, and working with this real state as a dream, and see if you're seeing any difference in your ability to transform your views about what is happening in front of you on minds. Anybody unclear? No, everybody's clear on what we're doing.
Cloudy. Is there a question?
The first thing is, what
When you dream to enter it as the real world. The intention to enter it as the real
and
world.
how you can use your vows or precept to alter your perception of whatever's playing out in your dream. Yes.
You mean like shifting the mind during your dreams?
Yeah, I could say shifting the mind during your dream, but I mean, with a specific purpose and intention, or the intention of bringing intention that is virtuous to the dream.
Huh. It's like you were telling us mindfulness of what? You're saying shift your intention in the dream, but to live with a higher resonance in terms of the Dharma that is within us.
Yes, and
Okay.
see what happens in that dream, or if you can even make a contact in that way. Maybe not, I'm just saying, just see what happens. And then what's the other part?
Shift the mind consciousness.
Seeing this world as a dream. And the reason why I'm not using shifting the mind, because there's a certain practice that we're doing, and I don't want these to get confused. And then you saying, well, I do the shift the mind practice, because this is not the shift the mind practice. And that's why I know those words. I'm using shifting the mind now. Because there's a particular practice around that in the Mahamudra of liberation. Okay, you get me, Rob?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and
Okay.
it's in tune more with what you're saying always, which is don't fasten around the words, like enter into the experience.
Yeah.
I have dreams every night. And it's kind of crazy. But 3 nights ago, I met my match again and again, always failing. And I actually used the precept and got out of it. And so what she's saying is very possible. I literally stood up in my dream, and I literally said, and I through a portal in the dream. And I just share that because I'm in no way near close to Venerable's excellence or her attainment. And so I just wanted to share that it could be very possible for you as well.
Well, if I had excellence in attainment, I wouldn't have needed to do something to change how I was thinking, right? We,
Question for you, did you set that as an intent before you fell asleep that
Yeah.
night?
Yeah, I actually set an intention every night, try to, if I don't fall asleep, that I will learn Dharma in my dream.
That
And that I will
strikes me,
overcome.
yeah, that strikes me as important.
Yeah, right before I go to bed, right before I go to bed. Lots of
Kind of set the table.
Yeah.
What happened and
It's like trying to move that gate or that space from sleeping, from waking to sleeping. And trying to remove whatever that space is that we enter into, or we lose sight of this side when we enter into that side. So setting that intention, I think, has been really helpful.
I mean, 'cause, like the mind is never asleep. I mean, we go into an unconscious state. I mean, like we just can connect the dots, but it wasn't that the mind went anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And so we have a lot of dead zones to our active, awake consciousness, but it's not real. We're not really separated in that way. So you'll find that that veil or curtain into unconsciousness starts to disappear. It starts to leave. You know. Um, yeah. I mean, where did the mind go when you like lost 4 hours? In that unconscious, and actually, it's not even really like that. I mean, we can be awake, and then there's something that comes after that. We can't even remember what happens in a 24-hour period, much less previous lifetimes. That's why we don't believe in previous lifetimes. But if we remember them, then we will believe in them. We would that they. So this is just working with the mind in a little different way, and not for pressing for any kind of outcome. Outcomes come out of our efforts with things, but don't press for outcomes. That's what we have to get away from pressing for a particular come. It's just noticing what is coming, how it's here, and how to refine yourself so the outcomes shift. But don't press for outcome, because our mind will just create some for us. Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
ask, can I ask you one question, Venerable?
Hmm?
One of the things that the questions that I'm really asking is, and this is something that Buddha Master sort of mentions time and time again. He's like, I constantly beseech the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas for you, and he says, I beseech you to take up these practices. And this is something I hear you say a lot, right? And in one sense, it's like, yeah, it's just using your other words. But in another sense, lately I've been feeling like a lot of the Yidam practices and the things that we're doing are just to kind of take you to a place where you can surrender enough to really wholeheartedly see if we can enter into that stream based on our wish and our virtue. Like, I've had this feeling like virtue is this perfected state that is the mind of the universe, and
Mhm.
and it comes out of that great longing. And sometimes I can touch into that, and sometimes it feels like, whoa, what am I even doing in here? And I'm wondering what your process of refining your beseechment actually looks like. Because it's such a small world, but I feel like there's so much in it.
Well, everybody's approach to this and entrance is going to be different. So, and I can't say that I have any one process. It's when something, let's say if you're walking on a dark path and every time you take a step, light springs forth from that, then light springs forth on that next step, but then your next step is still good. It's going to be dark. It's only when you take your foot and make that next step that light will spring forth from that. So don't know the whole, you don't beginning to the end. You only see it as an unfolding path as you take each step. And each person is stepping, in a different place based on their own karma. Not karma alone, but karma, interest, affinity, um, um, belief, willingness to sin, to see, and to learn. It's all like that. So I can't tell you what my process is. I take a step. Based on that, I take another step. That's all. That's all I can say. But these 84,000 Dharma teachings, you could say that they are processes. They are methods. They're not teachings. They are methods to drop off the layers of ignorance that prevent us from, like really knowing what we are, what the universe is all. That's and all of this that we call spiritual talk is really in the realm of universal speak, universal language. We don't have to call something spiritual up here and put it in another category over here. It's all just one thing. So it's brightening. It's like this, like this, like this. It's circular. Buddha calls it. He said 360. He's like above and below. To the east, the north, the south, in front of you, behind you. So don't think of growing vertically or extending horizontally, but like a ball that's opening in this kind of way. And he says that when you do your meditation properly, you see, I can't explain to you how this is. You'll just know it when you touch it. But there is a with like just peering into the vastness, behind the closed eyelids, it's nothing there. But there is a perception of in front of you, right? In that space. But there's also a perception of behind you and a perception of there being space on either side of you. And there's a perception of space being above you and beneath you. So that's how things start to expand. Understanding expands. It grows in all directions, all around you. It's not like a linear step forward. So you become aware of everything 360. I don't think that answered your question. So I say my answer is I have no particular method. I just open to the wisdom that unfolds right in front, and then being available for the next either meaning for me or the next correction. Yeah. Okay, can somebody close out for me?
Dedicate the merit from this time together today to all beings in all realms of samsara. May they have fortune and wisdom peace and auspiciousness, and may all beings have the opportunity to see the truth within themselves and be liberated from suffering.
And my sharing today is in no means was to speak of entertainment. It was to speak of ask question and an answer coming, so understanding the right sense.